we're talking about becoming one of the richest, if not the richest state in the Union. Like with all the resources that we have here, this is crazy.
How would you feel you wake up one morning and you're an American citizen?
Real happy. Yeah. Yeah. Just,
Article 11, Canada acceding to this confederation and joining the measures of the United States shall be admitted into and entitled to all the advantages of this union.
Man, I met some people in Canada who are obsessed with becoming a part of the USA. I mean, outright infatuated. Alberta, Canada. That's not Montana. They wish they were, though. No, I don't know. But they're not happy down there, damn it. Canada just voted in the Liberals again, and these people are pissed. They hate it so badly they want to break off from Canada and be part of the United States. They want to join us. Folks down there just sent a delegation to Washington, D.C. to explore the idea of becoming our 51st state. Yep, a province of 5 million people wants to be part of our country. A lot of them anyways. The idea has been talked about before a lot, but never before like this. Not since Donald Trump threw out the welcome mat. And that's just fascinating. Hey everybody, it's Nick and Kim here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I probably didn't need to say the Canada part. Say hey, Kim.
Hey everybody.
We're here in Chinatown. It's very nice here. Kim and I were extra motivated and we came all the way from Detroit, flew all the way out here to Calgary to bring you the deets about what's going on here in Alberta and in Calgary. There's a lot of drama here and we're going to tell you all about it. And also, it's Memorial Day today back home. You probably think people in Canada don't care about Memorial Day, but some of these people might, and I'll explain that too. That is going to be, and I'm still talking and I forgot what I was going to say. So we're going to drive around here for a few days and we're going to talk to people. You wouldn't believe it, but some of these people want to be part of your country. So we're going to ask them about that and just kind of take the place in and see what it's all about here. So far, my first impression is Calgary is very nice, but we've only gone 2 bucks. The Canadian adventure begins right here, Oh, Canada, they want to be our state. Some of them, anyway.
This is the naturalization oath of allegiance to the United States of America, that I will bear arms on behalf of the United States when required by law.
I hereby declare that I will support and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There's Canadians pledging allegiance to our flag. Did you ever think you'd see that? Man, these people are motivated. It's an obsession. Calgary, Alberta. Imagine you picked up Denver and you set it down 1,000 miles north. People say this part of Canada resembles our American plains. The Dakotas, a little bit of Texas. I guess I got that vibe. There's a lot of folks here that do not like the rest of Canada anymore. They call the government in Ottawa idiots. Ottawa's their Washington, D.C. They say Eastern Canada doesn't have our best interests in mind. We like tough macho stuff, and they eat poutine. They ain't never even shot a damn gun. Kind of like how the people in North Dakota feel about the people in Los Angeles. You get this. This province is different from the rest of Canada. Now, you might be like, what's a province, Nick? I have no idea what you're talking about. Well, Canada has 10 provinces. They're like our states. Right now, we're in Alberta. It's about as close to the culture of Montana or Texas as you can be. A lot of them wish they were Montana or Texas. Look at this voting map. You can see here just how conservative Alberta is. The colors on this map are backwards. Blue means conservative and red means liberal. The whole province here voted super conservative except for one tiny little neighborhood down here in Calgary. Now I can make 5 videos just on the reasons Albertans are the way they are, but I'll summarize it. Out here it's hardworking, sensitive values and oil and farming and ranching and tough guy stuff. But out east, by Toronto and Ottawa and Montreal, it's not that at all. Some oil stuff. That's what keeps Canada going. And Canada just had their prime minister elections, and the people in Toronto and Montreal and Ottawa voted in another Democrat, damn it. Albertans got outvoted once again, and for who knows how long, everybody's gonna have to deal with liberal crap. Ugh. The people in Alberta, they're appalled at the number of immigrants coming into Canada. They hate the high costs, the high taxes. Did you know they pay more than 50% of their income in taxes now? All that hard work and half of it down the drain. And for what? And don't get them started about all that woke stuff here, mister. Now, this whole thing with Alberta wanting to break away from Canada is not a new concept. They've been stewing about it for decades. But it's a wildly popular idea right now. Canada's struggling, and plus Donald Trump keeps saying, let's make Canada the 51st state. There's no better time than now. Just remove the Montana border completely. So all these organizations have formed up here, and they're gaining a lot of momentum. AB 51, the Alberta Prosperity Project, they even have flags and everything. So here we are in just a middle-class neighborhood. Kids are getting dropped off for school. Albertans love Canada, but more and more you hear people say, enough's enough, I'm fed up. I'm tired of the way this country's going. There's secessionists and independent people and 51st staters all over Alberta. Some of them are in this middle-class neighborhood behind me. There really isn't a bad part of Calgary. Everywhere you go is so clean and safe. I'm super envious and jealous of this place. I have to say, they're lucky to have it. But some people are still unhappy, so we're gonna go and we're gonna drive around and we're gonna talk to some people and find out how they feel about the direction of their country and if indeed they want to become part of our country. Okay, let's try knocking on some doors. We haven't done this since the election. And I don't know how Canadians are going to feel about some American knocking on the door, but let's find out. It's your favorite YouTuber, all the way from America. I hear a lot of people say they want to break away from Canada and maybe even become part of the USA. So we're asking people about that.
I'm not really interested, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I don't mean to be rude.
No, it's fine. I was wondering if I could interview you.
It sounds really cool, but I'm just getting on a phone call here.
Can I interview you for a second?
You don't want to interview an old man. I'm just kind of walking around.
It's kind of hard to just randomly pick a house and say, hey, I'm from the United States. Can I ask you about some stuff? Last time we did all the door knocking, we knew exactly who was going to talk because they had a flag or a sign in their front yard. All right, let's try another one. These people are just not wanting to talk. I thought Canadians were friendly. I just am randomly knocking on doors and knocked on yours. Can I interview you for a second?
Not for a second.
Are you one of the people that wants to be part of the 51st state? That wants to leave Canada entirely?
Well, I think we'd be, like, for reasons of, say, we could call it financial security, because we're going nowhere here, you know. Like as far as the finances here, you know, we're going absolutely nowhere.
We got another big gate, another big house out in the country. Oh, look at that backyard. I know. Look at his view.
That's
lucky.
Amazing. Good for Paul. Oh, and he has an American flag.
Oh my my God, he has an American flag up.
Oh.
Did he hang that just for us?
I don't know.
That's beautiful.
Because we were coming, or do you always have that out?
Always have that.
Yeah?
Always have that. Come on in.
What's up, guys?
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Nick.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for reaching out.
Americaville?
Yes, Americaville.
So they, we did an interview. That's a project one, but so we did an interview here a couple of weeks ago. But you can see it.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my
That
gosh.
is
Pretty.
Open it right wide or fall.
Well, it's gonna fall down and then.
But you've been a 51st stater
look,
for...
I've been a stater pretty much all my life. That's all. Canada's always been split east-west. Always. That's just a natural, cultural. I mean, once you pass that Ontario border into Manitoba, coming from east to west, it's different. You feel like you're in a different country, right? So, so that was why we started to educate Albertans and say, hey, you guys should desire this. Now with the advent of all this separatist talk and so on and so forth, it's just kind of taken off, right?
Yeah, it seems like there's more momentum now after the recent election.
Yeah.
What percentage of Albertans do you think would seriously, if it came to a vote to become part of a 51st state?
So our groundwork that we did, when we explained the advantages to statehood, becoming part of the union before the PR campaign that happened in the last election, okay? The vast majority of people was, where do I sign up? How do we do this, right? And of course, you know, we would need a referendum and all that kind of deal. So if you got people's emotions out of it, the vast majority would. And I know that shocks some people, and I know some people will see this and go, oh, well, I don't see that. Well, we saw that by talking with people on the ground, right?
So in the next year, Alberta's going to vote whether or not to continue its relationship with Canada.
Yeah.
And if everybody agrees, you get enough votes, then it's a decision. Do we stay our own independent sovereign nation, or do we become part of the U.S.? That's the next decision. So
there's the ranchers and
That is beautiful.
well, I tell you what, every time we turn a corner, I say, bring them in, let them in.
Yeah.
But you guys got to vote to separate first.
So yeah, so that's it. So the biggest thing that happened here in the past few months, the Premier of Alberta, Daniel Smith, lowered the bar for a citizen initiated referendum, okay? And so all the independence people following the election said, let's get a referendum to get out of Canada. And that bar was met. They got 250,000 people who signed a petition to say, I will vote. And what's happened at that point is they're looking at volunteers and so on and so forth to go out and get people to sign on to it. And then once the legislature says, yes, you've met the criteria for a petition, we will have a referendum either in September, October, or next year. I think the Premier wants it next year. The independence folks want it as soon as possible, obviously.
You're going to be pledging allegiance to the flag. You're fine with that?
There are statehood supporters here
That do it every day.
doing that now.
I know, I've seen it on Facebook. Like they pledge allegiance in the morning.
Yeah.
That to me is very interesting. It's almost like an obsession at that point.
Oh, it is. It is for a lot of people. So many Albertans drastically want out.
All right, we're out here at my buddy Alan's place. It's Gurlet's Rodeo Ranch. And we're going to see if Alan will talk to us about how he feels about the direction of Canada. And I can already tell you I know how he feels, but we're going to hear it from Alan himself.
Well, the West, between the Western and Eastern Canada, there's a big difference. You know, they don't really understand the Western lifestyle compared to the East. You know, here there's a lot less people, and you know, we've had to probably dig in a little bit, you know, in the older days to make a living. And in the East, it kind of come to them a little more naturally. And, you know, now with the way the oil is and, you know, we can't even trade, like from Alberta going across Canada, we can't even trade between provinces. And it's kind of the craziest thing, like, you know, Eastern, like Montreal and Quebec, they import their oil from different countries, and we have all the oil here in Alberta. You know, I believe anyways that you just get tired of sending money east and not receiving anything back. You know, we've got people here that need schools, and, you know, we have our own problems in Alberta. Don't kid yourself, we got a lot of problems, and I think it's just time that, you know, we should be able to look after ourselves with sending our money to other places.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people out here that are like not wanting to be part of Canada anymore, I hear.
Well, I think it's, you know, I think that everybody's looking for an option. And, you know, with Trump there saying to be the 51st state, I think it opened up the conversation a lot more. And, you know, is it a great idea? It's probably not the worst I've heard. You know, I think there's a lot of opportunities, especially if you turn around and make the American dollar the same as the Canadian dollar. You know, as far as Alberta and Saskatchewan go, I think that would entice a lot of people, and we could keep a lot of our traditions here and maybe adapt a few from the United States. And even if we weren't part of the United States, we could be an independent part. And, you know, as far as we'd be a powerhouse if we were partners with the United States with all the oil and all the stuff we have in the ground here. Like, you know, we have so much stuff here that we'd be a powerhouse, and especially we would get access to the north and the access to the south. I don't think there'd be anybody stop us.
How would Alberta be better if it was part of the United States?
Well, respectfully to you Americans, I love you all, but I think we would improve America.
Okay, yeah, I'd love to hear it. How?
Right? I think we would improve America. One, you have a backing economically, right, as we would, from our perspective, become the richest state in the United States regarding our resources in partnership with Texas. Right? You have a military backing as well to support your country and its resources to protect it. We couldn't do that really as an independent country, but we're better off joining with the Union and the military. There is a different culture here. I would say we're the soft rednecks, right? You guys are a little hardcore down there in Texas. Love you all, but we're your extended brothers. And then if you understand the history, from my research, we were already American to begin with as Canadians, according to the Articles of Article 11.
And how would it feel? You wake up one day, you're now an American.
I think I'd feel a lot of pride and a lot of patriotism. And that's something too. When I was born in Canada 30 years ago, that deal was made to me upon birth, where I would have that freedom. I'd have the opportunities that every other Canadian had. And I think we've lost sight of that, where the US is still that land of opportunity and true freedom.
We're talking about becoming one of the richest, if not the richest state in the Union. Like, with all the resources that we have here, that's crazy.
Like Alberta would immediately become like one of the top producing states.
Texas might give us a run for our money,
yeah.
but definitely we'd be second if you take a look at the resources in just oil. Right.
Okay, so a lot of people are going to say,
it's a short.
Like this, how would this even work? How, like, okay, yeah, so let's say Alberta decides, let's do it. Let's become part of the United States. Mm-hmm. Then what? You're U.S. citizens. You pay taxes like us, and it's just seamless, or there's a few things that have to be worked out. Obviously, different codes and so on and so forth, right? Certifications, that kind of deal. But when it comes down to the basic framework of how you would separate and become part of the U.S., it's actually very simple, and people want to complicate it
And I wonder sometimes if they want to complicate it because they've infiltrated the independence movement to make sure it doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So with the Declaration of Independence, there was a clause in the Declaration of Independence that said any Canadian colony or part of it will be allowed to become part of the Union without having to go to Congress. You're in like Flynn. Okay, I think that's. I'm probably going to mess it up.
Article 11 or something?
11. Yeah, I believe it's 11. So as long as we would have a referendum of 50+1 that meets international law, it also meets Congress recognizes 50+1 as a majority, and we would make application to the U.S. That would be it.
This has already been planned out. I mean, there's already a clause for this in case it ever came up.
That's right.
What is it specifically about the way it's set up that works for Alberta? Like, what aspect of it?
Well, the average Albertan just wants smaller government, stay out of my business and let me do my thing, let me prosper. That's it. And that really is how the Republic of the United States is set up. Each state is a separate country. That's how y'all operate. Here, we're constantly trying to get the federal government out of our business. And every time we think we have, well, they come up with something new.
So how would your life as an American be different then? What is it so different about America that you want to leave this country entirely and be part of another one?
Well, let me just make a statement first. I don't ever want to leave Canada in regards to where I am, right? I just am aware that the system that we follow is a monarchical constitution, which is the same in Australia. It's the same in New Zealand, and given the fact that I've lived in both countries and from those, it is the same deterioration that follows under the system. But when that statue of holding the flag up and coming to realize it wasn't just soldiers, it was children, it was families, it was farmers that was holding that up for freedom and independence and the will to have a life on your own. That's something that was here in Canada and it's just been lost over time. So to me, transitioning into an opportunity where we can gain our freedoms back, right? Where we can gain our independence and identity back. It has to be from changing the system.
I don't see any downside to joining the US and flying a new flag that actually represents freedom and represents a much richer history than Canada could ever offer anyone here.
So what do the people that don't want to be part of the US up here, what do they not like about America? Are there stereotypes?
The stereotypes.
Like, what are the stereotypes?
The stereotypes is that the biggest complaints you'll get from the independents are, look what happened with Biden and Obama. The next Democrat that gets in or the next crazy person that gets in, then we're stuck with them having to go through what those people went through down there. So you'll get that kind of stuff. America's got all kinds of problems. We don't need to add the problems to Alberta.
What are the problems that we have?
Homelessness
and drugs and cost of living.
There you go.
The same stuff that you guys have up here.
You got Portland, and they don't want Portland here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll give you Portland.
Okay, so you've got a conservative state that wants to be conservative, and they don't want any of the leftists.
That comes with it's a package deal.
Exactly, and that's what they'll say. That's what they'll say, right? And then they'll get, well, maybe Gavin Newsom gets in the next time, and then we've got to deal with all this type of problem, all these problems type deal. We don't want that. We're trying to get rid of that. You see the thinking there, right?
Yeah.
And in fact, what did the Premier of Alberta do? She said, and that was part of our platform on AB 51, was to have paper ballots, no machines. Right?
Yeah.
And of course you get called a conspiracist. You're crazy. But so there is none in Alberta. So what happens is that people are scared of that kind of stuff coming to Alberta, and they listen to CNN, they listen to CBC, and so on and so forth. Most of them love Trump. You know, they were put off. There was the liberal trolls were put off. You know, oh, Trump is anti-Canadian, he's trying to take our country, and that kind of deal. But the independents in Alberta and the conservatives in Alberta, they might be put off by some of the things he says sometimes, which it doesn't bother me at all. But some people, you know, they're affected by that. So.
To retract a little bit, I love Canada. Don't get me wrong, but it's lost its soul somewhere. Not during the people, those that govern us.
And you think America hasn't lost its soul?
Well, I'm going to say it has.
It has. I know. I live there.
Yes.
It's not the same.
But from someone that's looking on the outside looking in, and also who has another country government system to work with, which is New Zealand, and I lived in Australia. I'm looking in from the outside from a bird's eye view. You have one man in that office right now that is returning it back to the old republic. If you look at the 2017 inauguration, it lays it out plainly right in front of your view, but no one really caught it. Or should I say, only a few of us caught it. Go back to it.
What was
Look
it?
at it.
What was it?
When Donald Trump says that we are going to take power and return it back to you, the people, military intelligence comes walking up behind him, and military justice attorney general, or JAG, which means I also have the support of the intelligence to do it, the Intelligence Bureau, and those who are corrupt that may fall under Executive Order 13818 and Executive Order 13848. Right, you would deal the ramifications of the military.
You know, Donald
Think
Trump's
about
only
that.
going to be in office for a few more years, though.
Well, constitutionally, he's been impeached twice, and because he was able to get off twice, he is allowed to run toward 2 more terms.
You think he's going to do 2 more?
Because it interrupted his presidency in order to defend his position, and he wasn't able to govern the nation properly. Right? So he is legally able to put in 2 more terms if he wants to. He won't. But I can tell you what, if he did, he'd be doing it for free again. Free again. What leader in the world does work for free? They're more about inside stocks and making money for themselves.
So out here, we're just a separate, we're a vassal state to this country, you know? And I mean, it's been decades, probably 60 years now, that Albertans have tried to get a fair deal from Ottawa, you know? And there's been separatist talk forever, and nothing changes. You know, you might get a crumb here and there, and then we think, okay, now it's okay, now we're gonna get somewhere. And then things go back to normal.
Well, what is the rest of Canada, the people that think you guys are crazy, what do they say? How do they frame that?
Well, so that's interesting. They'll frame it as you're a traitor. Okay, so I've been called traitor, racist. I mean, it's just a typical. You know, I can't defend my position, so I'll call you every name in the book.
So other Canadians call you guys
Canadians,
traitor.
so Eastern Canadians will call us traitors. What's interesting is Quebec has had a separation movement for decades, going back, you know.
They still are
they still do, to some extent. But what happens is when Quebec was trying to separate, everybody was, sending love letters and all kinds of stuff like that. But when Albertans talk about it, you're traitors, right? And most of that is driven from mainstream media, just basically Trump hatred, Trump derangement syndrome, as they say, and that's really all it's about.
America's got problems, right?
Of course.
What problems are you aware of that we have that you would be inheriting if you joined us?
Well, I mean, the big thing there is, I think there is some uncertainty, I think, from the U.S. side right now of, I'm sure Democrats don't necessarily want another more than likely red Republican state to join the Union, and they'd probably have some negotiation to do with that, and they would probably try and push it away because they don't want more power to the side they oppose. I guess the downside for us is more of that, but it's also the power struggle with Canada where they're trying to prevent us from leaving. And I think that's why we need the protection of the United States in order to actually accomplish the end goal for us. The downside, I think, is we lose some of that Canadian identity, but at the same time, I think there's a much more positive identity from the US being the land of the free, being the global superpower, and ultimately having a leader that is more respected and has a spine and can stand up to the world stage and say, no, my country's being put first, as opposed to a country where they kind of just fold over whoever is paying them off. When people travel, they don't say they're Canadian, they say they're Albertan, because they don't want to be known as Canadian. And I think I feel the same way, because that flag doesn't represent the majority of us anymore.
Football is a big deal in the U.S.
Love
Are you
football.
willing to put hockey in the background and football's prominent?
Well, you've got a great bunch of hockey teams down
Yeah.
there too.
But okay, so miles, kilometers, are you willing to put kilometers behind
Oh,
for
you
good?
bet. You bet.
Celsius? No more Celsius?
No more Celsius. That's a funny thing, that came in with the first Trudeau.
Yeah, 4th of July is a big deal. Like you guys
Yeah.
would have to start celebrating our holidays.
Yeah. You bet. See, that's another thing too. A lot of Canadians have always had this thing about, oh, Americans are so overly patriotic. Well, again, let's go back to those two precious documents. You read those and you'll understand why Americans are patriotic. That'll just explain everything to you.
Yeah, I can see it in your eyes. But like Alberta proper, would it just be called Alberta? Would that be the name of the state?
Yeah, well, some people have said that there should be 3 provinces or 4 provinces, and you would call it the Greater Buffalo, State of Greater Buffalo. There's all kinds of different ideas.
That's a dumb name.
Yeah,
just Alberta, it's perfect.
Yeah. Alberta needs to be its own state.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be part of anything else. I could see Saskatchewan, Alberta being a state, but it's a big piece of land. There's a lot of resources. And Alberta and Saskatchewan as a state, my goodness, that'd be crazy. Economically speaking, resource-wise, it'd be crazy. The potash in Alberta and wheat and oil as well.
Would that mean that Albertans would have to get drafted into our military? Is there a worry about that?
I don't know about that.
Because out here the Canadian Army is right there. That's all your horses right there.
Yeah.
I'm just messing with you. I was told a lot of people feel this way, but they're scared to talk about it up here. I know. They're afraid to get penalized by the government. It happens. People who've spoken up have had their bank accounts frozen. I know. It's crazy up here. But a lot of people here don't care. They're ready to break off, become part of our country.
Historically, and I want to bring this document up for you.
Yeah.
Okay, as I got this healthy.
And by the way, while you're looking that up, I love the hat. Is that somewhere, are there a lot of people sporting those lately?
There are starting to come around. I mean, I think you mentioned something. A lot of people are concerned, scared, in fear of what the ramification could be if you spoke out softly. Because that's speaking out softly, right?
Does anybody give you shit with that hat on? They ever go, you traitor? What are you trying to do? What's that? What are you doing here? There's no way that's going to happen. I mean, when I wear my MAGA hat back home, you get some dirty looks and some
but I'll share an experience I had in Mexico just recently. I went down to the poolside and got to realize I was next to some Americans, right? And they, oh, you're Canadian. What's going on in Canada? She started the dialogue and I said, oh, okay. I would consider myself conservative. And she goes, well, what do you think of Democrats? and I didn't know how to answer that. And I said, if they could just get off mainstream media and form an opinion for themselves, we would probably become united a lot quicker. It's called TV programming for a reason. Listen, I'll leave you with that thought. Okay.
You have friends or neighbors that have said, I'd be a 51st state.
I don't know, maybe about 40%. But then the people, you know, you're going to be looking at as a traitor or something like that. But a lot of people won't speak up, you know. But I think that maybe would, if they really looked at it all, they would be for it.
Why wouldn't they speak up?
Because you looked up, you would be shunned, maybe. You know?
Yeah.
Well, you got the same thing. You got the same thing. In America, what have you got? You got maybe 15% of the people seem to be like Marxists and Marxist radicalized, I would say. And those 15% or whatever it is, 10 or 15%, they're making 95% of the noise, you know? And the fake news backing them up all the way, you know?
Carl, you'd fit right in down here in the States where I live.
But then I was going to say,
I'd welcome you. What do people in your circles, friends, neighbors, coworkers, people you know, what's the consensus among them on this concept?
Well, in my personal circles, a lot of them are for it. But with previous employers, even with viewers from my channel, I get called all a bunch of names. My own Canadian government has called me a domestic terrorist because I disagreed with mandates back in 2020.
Yeah, you know, the first Trudeau was a communist, an avowed communist, you know, and yeah, it's just where we're at now. That's why there's so much support for independence in Alberta now, because I think people are realizing that, you know, we live in a socialist state now, you know, so again, for anyone who's still tied to the idea of Canada, well, really the only thing that's left is hockey. You know, people used to think Tim Hortons was a Canadian thing, and it's owned by the U.S. now, U.S. corporation. So I mean, you know, you can't even get your coffee and donuts that are Canadian anymore.
I was just talking to my comrade here. I have not seen in 30 years an actual media broadcast of a swearing in of a prime minister. That's something unique to America. You get to see that. You get to see who you truly voted for. Yes, they show who picked in cabinet, but when it comes to that, I have not seen it. And so I'm the light that is within me still, that came at birth, tells me in my heart the things such as common sense, intuition, gut feeling, knowing the difference between right and wrong. My eyes see what I see, my brain interprets what I see, my heart tells me where I should lie.
How do you get other Albertans to feel like this, though? Because a lot of people are frustrated, but they're kind of like, that's a big step.
I don't really think I need to convince anyone because this has been resonating for years. I mean, Quebec tried to separate at one time, right? It's been a transition over. So I think it's some people's hearts. What they're really looking for is the right leader, right? Say what you want to say about Donald Trump. In the end, he's the one that really exposed it all for us to become more aware.
I mean, this talk of separation has been going on forever. Now, what happens is Ottawa gives us a crumb, you know, says, okay, well, you know, maybe we'll back off on this tax, or we'll
loosen.
It's a
toxic relationship.
Oh, it is. It is. Is the Alberta government using this as a way to, you know, string us along until they can get something out of Ottawa? And then Albertans go, okay, you know, we're getting somewhere now. And all of this goes away again. I mean, we've seen this too many times.
So you're worried that this is just another time that it's going to be close and then it's just going to fade away because everyone's going to lose interest. They're going to get a little bit from the government.
And then 2 years from now, they'll throw some more regulations in, you know.
Here, they're even trying to buy back firearms from legal firearm owners. And an unarmed country is one that's easy to control, where Americans, I'm sure you know, you've got that beautiful Second Amendment where an armed citizenry is a feared citizenry, and the government has to watch its step because it knows that its citizens can uprise at any time and say their piece.
Because you have less rights now, expensive stuff, like
Cost of living has gone way up.
Yeah.
You look at even a 3-bed, 3-bath home here, it's worth almost $900,000, almost $1 million, where you can probably find that in some of the southern states for a quarter of the cost.
Is that the government's fault?
I don't know if that's the government's fault, but I think it's a result of the taxes, the inflation, and sending a lot of money overseas when it should be
just bad
staying
management.
Here. Yeah, it's bad fiscal management, and it has been that way for a long time.
Okay. Is there any way you think that Canada can figure out a way to get along, the West versus the East?
Well, they've got to change a lot. The politics is another whole situation. Like for Saskatchewan, Alberta, when they elect the prime minister here, it's already decided before we even get a vote here. It's all decided in the East. Like there's so many votes that they get, in Quebec and through Toronto. It's decided before we even get a vote. So, for every year I've voted, it's always been decided before I even see it. So, there's a lot of problems. Will it get fixed? I can't see it. They've been talking about it for 50 years and it just stays the same. And the cost of living is getting higher, and I think a lot more people are, looking for options right now.
I think talking to you, I realize that we take for granted what we have going on in America, because we take it for granted. We don't think about it. It's just part of a normal life.
You got that exactly right, Nick. I heard a preacher a few days ago say that a lot of people don't think that God creates miracles anymore. And he said it's because people are too accustomed to their way of life that they don't see them. There's miracles happening all the time. And that's the thing, we need to wake up every day and just be grateful for what we've got. So, when you go home, tell your friends and neighbors, look around at what they've got. It's pretty precious.
I agree. And there's a lot of people that shit on our flag, burn it, turn their back on our government, especially the current administration, and they just don't realize what they have good for them. And they just they don't realize that it's, been called the best country in the world, and all the freedoms and the opportunity that you have. It's easy to kind of forget and take for granted and not notice. But it's another thing to stomp
try
on the
to
flag
destroy it.
and try to destroy. Yes.
Yeah.
And to try to.
That's crazy.
What's interesting about Easterners is they're so used to a socialist type system that they don't even realize they've lost anything, right? And so out in the West, though, we are really aware of that. And you have this cowboy and Indian, rancher type lifestyle out here where people is just leave me alone, right? I'm out here, you want to govern, that's fine, stay out of my pocket, stay out of my life. And that really resonates as a spirit within the Western provinces, Eastern BC, Saskatchewan, Alberta kind of deal. So it's oil country and cowboy and, and ranching kind of deal. So that people are more connected with the land. And that does something to them, right? Whereas when you're in the big cities, you're not connected to the land.
Liberty, pursuit of happiness, the ability to defend yourself without punishment, the ability just to express yourself without being arrested, the pursuit of happiness, economic opportunity, cheaper housing, cheaper everything. Is that not the dream? And to be able to be happy and have that nuclear family again without having to worry about what you're going to do, whether you're going to pay bills or eat. Doesn't sit right with me, Alberta. Does it sit right with you?
I'm looking forward to being your partner, your brother, your sister, your cousin, and a patriot. Because in the end, that's what it takes to be American. It's a value that reminds us inside, in God we trust. Thank you.
And how symbolic. I panned up to the Canadian flag and it was out of air.
So to wake up under the U.S. Constitution, that'd be a big breath of fresh air.
How would you feel you wake up one morning and you're an American citizen?
Real happy. Yeah. Yeah. Just
You're like tearing up right now. You really want this really bad.
yeah.
Is it more about becoming part of the U.S. or just getting the hell out of Canada?
It's about freedom, you know.
Almost all of it is just a bunch of baloney that they're making up. So there you go.
Are these Amish?
No, those are girls. They're exercising the horses. Yeah.
Well, if that ain't some cowboy shit.
Yeah, it's cowboy country.
God,
You're in
Paul.
cowboy country, so.
Did you arrange for the goats?
No,
and
I didn't.
And the cattle
I
movers.
didn't have
and
to.
all
That's par for the course.
It's almost like
I was trying to show you some bison, but they don't have the ranch. I think is up north of here. But anyway, it's.
Well, I am in love with this place, and I would. If there's anybody out there that can help make this happen, please do so.
Yes.
Come on in.
This would be a wonderful addition.
Let's invest in AB 51. Let's get it going. That's what we need.
Yeah. What? So what do we need to do? So
we need America to come in and invite the Albertans in. Start talking about investing in Alberta as a 51st state, and that's really come and visit. It is gorgeous. It really is. It's like no other place in Canada in my mind. So, yeah.
There's nothing controversial about this. It makes sense for both sides.
Yeah.
I don't know why this didn't happen sooner. And cut. I never thought I'd see a U.S. flag, stars and stripes on a house in Canada, but there you go. I hope that Paul and his friends have success, because this place is wonderful. Okay, so we're pretty much done here in Calgary. That's how people here in Alberta feel. There's a lot of people here that don't want to be part of this place anymore. They've got some strong opinions about it. And I don't blame them based on things they're complaining about. It's just how it is here. Calgary is a wonderful place and Alberta is too, but there's a lot of issues that they have with the rest of the country. They don't necessarily want to be part of Canada anymore. Can't blame them, they're fed up. And a lot of them say they want to be part of your country, people. It's a big step. In the next video, we're gonna decide, do we even want them anyways? There we go, that's it.
We the people. God bless the USA.